let's look at some of these tools. First of all, this is how fast chips are going. Sometime in the early part of next decade, we're going to see a chip that we'll be buying that will have the computer processing power of a mouse brain. Well, that's pretty cool. But because of that doubling and doubling and doubling thing, by the middle of the decade, somewhere around the middle of the decade, we're going to have a chip that will be as powerful as a human mind. And it won't be long after that it'll be in your phone. That's a lot of artificial intelligence that you're going to have in your communication device if you're still holding a device. I have no idea what it'll look like. And by the mid to late 30s, those chips, those single processing powers, are going to have the power of all the human brains in the world in one chip. All the human intelligence in one chip. Boom, right there. That's a lot of processing power. Now, Ray Kurzweil talks about it leading to the singularity sometime in the 2040s. That's beyond my book. I'm not going to go that far out. You know, where the computers themselves will start designing themselves, they become self-aware. I think that's actually wrong. And if anybody wants to ask questions about that, I'll tell you why you don't have to worry about artificial intelligence taking over the world. Or maybe I'll get into it later. I would feel sorry for an artificial intelligence. Anyway, 2005, that was your 128 megabyte chip. When it was 1982, I bought something about the size of a bread box. It was $4,000. And you could get 10 megabytes in it. A big old floppy. You could put a whole book on it. I mean, you could sit there and type and go back and find it. It was the coolest damn thing in the world. A whole book for $4,000. Now you can get 128 gigabyte, little chip, except that that's so last year. Today you can get a terabyte on one of those chips. Literally, you go to Amazon, click. You can buy one of those things with a terabyte, 1,000 gigs, 1 million megabytes. That's a lot of books. They give those things away now with company names on them. And I actually go to conferences and I take them because I lose them all the time and I have to give data around. So it's one of the few things I really like when I go to conferences, that and pens, because I lose pens. This was a Texas company. Fort Worth, Texas. I grew up with Radio Shack, their big shiny glass building in my backyard. This was their ad in 1990, before they went bankrupt last year. How many of you, now do you have Radio Shacks in Canada? So how many of you guys that are a little bit older used to go to Radio Shack and buy all the stuff? You were the tech heads, you'd go back and you'd put your computer, yeah, that was cool. I loved Radio Shack. Anyway, everything on this page would be, $10,000 or whatever. And it's all in that phone. On steroids. Because you couldn't get an 8 megapixel camera in that camera right there. I mean, certainly couldn't talk as easily or have Bluetooth in it or search the internet, which didn't exist. It's all in that phone. And that phone is so last year. I mean, and 2 years from now, it'll be so last 3 years, because it just keeps changing. Talk about exponential changes. Solar power. The drop of solar, the cost of solar power. It's what's called the Swanson effect. It's dropping, the total cost of output is dropping in half every 10 years. 20 years from now, solar will be easily cheaper than natural gas or any other form of power generation. It's digital energy. It will be essentially free. You'll be able to put it on your house, disconnect from the grid. You're shaking your head like I'm wrong. No, I'm not. Now, we may not use solar because there may be better technologies. There may well be better technologies. But we're not going to run out of energy anytime soon. Another cool curve is, in biotech, the cost of a genome is dropping faster than Moore's law. My friend Peter Diamandis, the X Prize guy, they've got a $10 million prize, I think, for the first company that comes in and can do 10 genomes of people who are over 100 years old, all under one day for under $100. Somebody will claim that prize within the next 2 years. When they did my genome 2 years ago, it's on the internet now. You can see all my 3 billion pairs. Somebody asked me, John, aren't you worried about somebody will clone you? I said, no, but if they did, I'd have a few upgrades to suggest. I did it to, it's out there for research and whatever. It cost $4,000. A few months later, a year later, it was 1,000. So it's just, and that was a year, it's just dropping. We're all going to have our genomes run because that's the way you're going to get your medicine, because it'll be personalized. Now, let's talk about some of the areas that we're going to see change. Mobile internet. How many of you know what a high balloon is? It's a big balloon, fill up this room, floats to 65,000 feet, holding radios underneath it, and it's stationary. It'll stay there up for a couple years. You put 40,000 of them up, you can circle the world, and you can provide internet to the entire world. You can do that for about $3 to $4 billion. If you're Google, and that's who's doing it, they've just about encompassed 1 meridian of the world now in the lower part of the southern hemisphere, going through India, Asia, Africa, South America, going completely around the world. Then they'll expand from there. They can do it with a mesh network. The value of the advertising search is a rounding error of $4 billion. That's why Facebook is saying high balloons aren't the way. We're going to use solar drones. And other people are looking at other ways. And do you think Apple won't do this? Of course Apple will do it, because you'll be able to use your Apple phone to tap into the internet and the mobile for free. They'll disintermediate the telephone companies. Well, if Apple does it, Samsung's going to do it. Your telecommunications cost is going to go down and down and down. Your data is essentially going to become free as long as the government doesn't get in the business of trying to make you pay for data. Because the companies want to give it to you. Or they'll sell it to you cheaply, and so you can disintermediate the advertisers, who will go nuts. I'm in the publishing business, one of my businesses, and we are going crazy. We spend more money trying to figure out, literally our marketing budget is consumed by trying to figure out how Google does search, because they keep changing it. And every time they change it, you have to change your entire parameters for everything, and it's expensive. There were things I used to pop up number 1 or number 2 on search. I'm down like page 10. It was the same thing. No. And I look at the other stuff, I'm going, that's dumb. Well, it's focused on what Google wants. So I have to change my entire everything for lots of money to be what Google wants. Sergey Brin costs me more money than his net worth. It seems like it to me. That means that those kids in India and Vladivostok and on the Serengeti are going to have access to everything with that computer that's in their phone that's smarter than we are.